Welcome to the Environmental Leadership Chronicles, a podcast brought to you by the California Association of Environmental Professionals. In this episode, we're excited to feature Cameron Lukos, an environmental professional who bridges the worlds of technology and biology. Cameron is a GIS analyst and biologist at GPA Consulting and provides GIS support across various departments, including biology, architectural history, and CEQA compliance. Cameron is also hands-on in the field, assisting with biological surveys, habitat assessments, and wetland delineations. He's a modern environmental scientist who combines technological capability with boots-on-the-ground biological expertise. Cameron's passion for science is rooted in his family's legacy in the environmental industry. He followed in his father's footsteps while also carving out his own unique path. In addition, as a student liaison for AEP, Cameron has discovered a new purpose: mentoring the next generation of environmental leaders. His commitment to giving back and helping students navigate their career paths adds another layer to his already impressive professional profile. Join us as we explore the intersection of GIS technology and biology and discover how one person's passion can spark a ripple effect of positive change in the environmental sector. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Jessa, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm Corinne, and my pronouns are she, her.
And today we have Cameron Lukos, who is a GIS analyst and biologist with GPA Consulting. Thanks for joining us, Cameron.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So first things first, and this might be a lengthy answer, but feel free to go for it. How are you connected to AEP?
So I am the student liaison for the Orange County chapter of the Association of Environmental Professionals. So work with the students in helping them kind of working on their careers, their education, things that they can do, help set up programs and events for them and stuff like that. So yeah.
Great. And I think a better question too now is, how did you get connected to AEP? Like, what was your first touch point with AEP?
Well, so funnily enough, I was a grad student at Cal State Fullerton, and a friend of mine who was in the class with me, she said, "Hey, I got an invite to this mixer event thing for young professionals and students." And I was like, and she's like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll go." Went to the event, and I talked with a couple of the people there. One of them was Kristen Bogue. She was at the time the student liaison there, and she was really interested in trying to get a student chapter at Cal State Fullerton. She had kind of been saying she'd been struggling to get somebody to help with that, so I said, "Sure, I'm happy to try." So gave it a shot. There were some crazy difficulties there, but especially also while I was in school, it was just getting into the pandemic, so there were some fun administrative issues and all sorts of other crazy things going on there. But long story short, got it established. Stayed in touch with Kristen a little bit, helped her with some of the scholarship stuff, and eventually. I started losing the person who was doing the newsletter. They asked me to take over for that. So I did it. And then when Kristen decided she wanted to move on, she asked me to take over the student liaison role. So
That's great. Yeah, there's nothing to better prepare your future environmental professional career as dealing with some bureaucratic red tape.
right? Very, very true. My goodness.
And then, Cameron, we have quite a few student members at AEP, and a lot of what we hear from them is, how do we make the move from going from being students to being environmental professionals? And I wondered if you have any advice or anything that worked well for you in making that transition.
I mean, so like, to be honest, I was very lucky with my career advancement. My dad had been in the environmental industry. He had his own company. So it was easier for me to transition, I guess, into it because I had, Nepo baby stuff, right? But like, so I had an easier transition kind of going into it. But I guess the one advice I would say to people who are trying to get into the industry, who are students, stuff like that is, join organizations like AP, network, just even if you just like through friend of friend or friend or something like that, you get connected to someone in the industry, no matter how loosely, like that's usually enough to just kind of get your name out there, and make people aware of you. I guess that's kind of like something that I felt. And take internships, like while you're in school. I think a lot of people kind of sit on internships or stuff like that, just lying and just making yourself known, I guess, is something that I think is really big.
That's awesome. I'm also Nepo baby. So my mom was a environmental professional before she retired. So longtime city planner, city council member. So
Yeah.
wholeheartedly echo that.
We interviewed Corinne and her mom on here to talk about an intergenerational series for podcasts, and I think we could do that, but rebrand it and environmental Nepo babies. I love it. And so, Cameron, I guess, I mean, maybe you spoke about your father. Is that, I mean, was that exposure early on, like what led you to an interest in the environmental industry? Like what steps in like your education and life like led you to like go down this path to being like majoring and getting degrees in the environmental, or I guess what you'd use in the environmental sector, biology? I assume I'm making an assumption that's what your degree's in. And I know you're GIS analyst too, but yeah, like just like kind of like where did you find that passion, or like what led to that passion to pursue this academically and then now professionally?
I mean, I guess that was kind of it was a windy road that I ended up getting there. Yeah, my dad totally was in the industry. He was an aquatic biologist. He worked for the Army Corps of Engineers, in the regulatory department. And then he worked for Michael Brandman Associates. And then he started his own firm. So that definitely played a major role in my decisions. But also, like as a kid, I was really interested in sharks and whales. So I got really into marine science. Don't ask me exactly how. I was like 3 or 4, so I don't really remember. But that entirely spurred on. But like I just got kind of hooked on it, and I just decided, like I wanted to do marine science. And so, when I got to trying to do college and going to college and stuff like that, that was still at the forefront of my mind, I guess. But my dad reminded me that it's like, do you want to be on a researcher salary, being a marine biologist? And I went, researchers don't make a lot of money, do they? He's like, not really. So I was kind of like, all right, I'll think about, some other directions, with that. And because, my dad had been in the industry, he used his bio background, his regulatory background and stuff like that to build a company, build a life for me and my mom and stuff like that out of that. I went, you know what? Environmental science is also a way to go too. I don't have to do physics and chemistry and all sorts of crazy stuff in undergrad. So let's go with environmental science. So that was my kind of my pivot point at that point to do environmental work. And yeah, so that's sort of how I academically switched. Again, also because my dad was in it, there's a level of sentimentality that I have with that. Feels kind of like a family business, so to speak. So my dad will probably tell you, like, he's like, oh yeah, he's been working in the industry since he was 3. He licked the stamps and sealed all the newsletters and stuff like that that we sent out. So yeah, he's been working in the industry since he was 4.
Getting those billable hours in.
Oh yeah, yeah, had to make the paycheck somehow. So yeah, he'll tell you, like, I've been involved, and he'd always, when he could, he would take me out to like do like wetland delineations or something like that when he was going out to field sites and stuff like that. So definitely have some like, fond family memories and stuff like that with them as well. So of course that's how I academically like got into it. The I guess confusing part with my degree was it is an environmental science, but GIS has become kind of like a big part of my career now, probably my more primary career, and that was also courtesy of my dad telling me, hey, do GIS, because at the time it was kind of an up and coming industry. And he's like, just learn it, trust me, it'll help. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. Turned out to be pretty much my career. So, so yeah, yeah. And like I said, yeah, my career was just kind of a twisting and turning kind of thing, starting out bio related, and then eventually just kind of flipping into GIS because it was the first aspect of my job, when when I got the opportunity to start. So yeah, GIS holds a special place in my heart because of that. It gave me a great opportunity to experience kind of like multiple different sectors of environmental, which I think is really great. I think that's a great kind of I want to say entry point or like way to kind of taste all of the different things that our industry can offer. Because in GIS, you've got planning aspects, with urban stuff, like zoning and land use and stuff like that. And then you can also start doing things like what I'm doing right now, where you're mapping GPS locations and mapping habitats and stuff like that. So gives you a real good taste of all sorts of different things, I guess. So yeah.
Cameron, my dad is going to be so jealous to hear you say that, because he was a, geography major, was early adopter of remote sensing and GIS. And so he told me the same thing: study it, you're going to need it. Like, it's really smart. And I just cried my way through 2 quarters of GIS, calling him every other night. Why did you tell me to do this? I'm so bad at this. So I'm glad that the advice worked for someone. And like I said, my dad will be insanely jealous that you are the one telling that story and not me.
I was thinking that as you were saying it, I was like, oh man, that could go either way, where it's like, just trust me, do it. And it's like, okay, or no, I'm going to do my own thing. I got this. But at least you tried though, Corinne. That's so admirable.
Tried. But Cameron, it's such an important point too. And I think, one of the things that AEP is starting to try to kind of wrap our arms around is, giving, an education to high school students, college students about, how wide the environmental profession is, and that, with undergrad degree, even a graduate degree, or without, we're a really big tent, and we have a lot of really good job opportunities here for, a whole, variety of subject matter experts. And, it's definitely something that, we need to take some notes from your dad on, is how to, really get that word out to, again, high school students, college students, that this is a profession where, you can get, a really decent salary, you can get a great job, and there's a lot of longevity to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I really liked becoming. I was very nervous when Kristen told me, she's like, "Can you be the student liaison?" I was like, I don't know what you do, and like and she's like, trust me, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, all right, but I think that's a big reason why I really liked. I think that's that was something that was really big for me, kind of like something that woke up inside of me that AEP brought out, was that like I really liked helping students and stuff like that see this industry and try to get into it. Like as you said, Corinne, like we're a nepo baby, so we had an easier time with it. But like thinking back on it, it's like how would I have even tried in the first place to get into the industry if it hadn't been for your family and my dad and stuff like that. And I just thought to myself, like, I got to be able to make it easier for somebody, in some way. So, I mean, that's why I really love, being a part of AEP and, being the student liaison, because I get to do that. So
I think that's so cool. Like it's kind of like the, paying it forward and passing it on is that you had all this like wonderful mentorship and guidance. I mean, just from, it's wonderful to get it from a parent, first of all, period, and whatever it is. And then specifically now within the environmental industry, and a lot of like great advice that, helped you get to where you're at today. I mean, obviously a lot of hard work too, and taking opportunities as they arise, but, recognizing that and what to do and kind of having a little bit of direction. And I think it's such a great way, impactful way for you to be a student liaison to now help those other students who, may not have, mentors already or not have as much clarity as to what the career paths are in the industry. And like you said, you got a taste for a lot of different things. And now you're able to go out and share that and like connect with students and be like, I was here. And let me tell you, like, these are some of the opportunities and ways you can get involved. I think it's just really, like I said, it's really admirable that you're doing this and putting your time towards that for the future workforce.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, I really do feel like it's an important aspect for us to keep our industry going. We need the young bloods.
We sure do.
So what is some advice as you're working with these students and questions? Actually, I have two questions as I'm thinking about this. My first one will be is what are students asking about? Like what questions do they have as you're interacting with them? And then the question I was going to ask is what advice are you giving to students who are interested in the environmental industry?
I mean, obvious ones are, can I get a job? Will you hire me? But I'm unfortunately I'm not in a position necessarily to hire or anything like that. But they're asking the right questions, I guess, is what I would argue. They're asking like, well, what you're asking me here, like, well, how did you get into the industry, and like, and what do I need to do to be recognized or to get into it? And I usually tell them things like, it's like, get involved. Like I was saying kind of at the beginning, just get involved, make people know your name. We're not like, people aren't going to hire you if they don't know who you are. If you're not some sort of if you're not like what people say, like a known commodity, they're not going to be able to, you'll never really be able to know. And then I emphasize also, like, internships, going to conferences. I know students, it's hard, to do that because, money and, just trying to get there and stuff like that. You're trying to get through your own academic pursuits, but just, taking the time to try to go to these things and just, put a face to a name. I'm usually okay with like, cold, like emailing out and stuff like that to, companies or something like that, just asking about like stuff, like internships or anything like that, or just giving them a resume, but then also following up with that, like, maybe if that company is going to a conference or something like that, go to the conference so that they know that that name is this person, it's attached to a person, because I think sometimes we forget that we get emails all the time and paperwork thrown in front of us. It's just going, there's a person attached to that, Can't forget the human aspect of that, I guess. So
I think that's, really great messaging now more than ever with AI, and we're chronically online, myself included, doom scrolling, looking at everything. And I think, like you said, like having that human connection, and even just, it's like even sending emails and connecting on LinkedIn and all that stuff is great. But then being able to add that like you said, the human aspect to it, and like shaking hands, like having that like brief interaction, even if for a moment, I think is so helpful. And it can be intimidating, I know, for a lot of people, even people who seem good at it, it still like can be very challenging and intimidating. So I think, you reinforcing that message and just really encouraging people, because sometimes too, it feels like you just need permission to do it. And then someone's like, oh, I should do this. Okay, good idea. And I'm sure it goes a long way with a lot of the students that you're working with.
yeah, and even if you want to just ask for, like, I think that like that's something that's kind of big too, is that like people, like, people who are in positions of like hiring and stuff like that, they kind of get this like weird, it feels like they get this vibe or something like that where it's like, they're going to hit me up for a job, or they're going to try to like ask for like a favor or like an in route or something like that. But it could just be something as simple as just being like, hey, I just wanted to pick your brain on like, what I asked this other person at a career event, like what are your thoughts? How did you get into it? Because, and just ask for advice, not necessarily ask for a job, ask for the advice. Because I think more often than not, we're much more willing to give advice more freely and more, readily than to just be like, I can't get you a job, dude. Like, I just can't do that. So something like that can even just be, huge in and of itself.
And also, I think, for hiring managers too, is just the constant reminder or checking in is really helpful. A lot of times people who are hiring, it's because we're pretty desperate to have some help. So, for me, especially, enthusiasm, dedication, go, as long as, if not longer than, can you, recite off the 18 resource areas under CEQA? I'd much rather you want to do this than necessarily know everything you need to do at this point. I can teach that, but I can't teach enthusiasm.
For sure. 100%.
I think too, Corinne, to speak to that or to add to that is that, if you're on the recipient, or if you're sending these and you don't get a response, like you said, just keep following up, because rarely is someone actively ignoring you, and things can get lost, people can get distracted. And so like, if you're the one who's consistently checking in and consistently following up, like you have that demonstration of ambition, commitment, follow through, dedication to things. You're like, wow, this person is like very serious about this and engaged. And it's not just like a one-off, like copy paste. I'm emailing this to, a bunch of different people. And so I think, having that, like, don't get discouraged if you don't get a response. It is, I would say, I can't say never, but I would say probably very, very, very rarely personal on that front. And so to continue to do that. And then I think, we've said this before on here, but on the, those who are in the industry, and especially those in a hiring position, decision-making positions, is to being open to have those conversations. And again, just a reply goes such a long way. And we actually, on the podcast, it's not out just yet, but the podcast we recorded right before this, we did speak about that with Shelby from the city of San Diego, was talking about that, the importance of just replying, even if it's just like, hey, I'm busy, I'm sorry, or, I don't have like the time or space to give you right now, but thanks. And here's some other people you can talk to, and giving some other resources goes a long way. So it goes both sides, right? People just
100%
encouraging all of us to kind of to step out and keep the conversation going, or help point people in the right direction, or ask for help. And so what I wanted to ask you too, Cameron, is like, at this, you're still, I'm assuming you're still like on the earlier side of your career. And so what do you want for the future? Like, where do you see your career going? Or maybe some things that you haven't tried yet, some things that you want to get some more experience in? Like, what's in the future for you?
You tell me. No.
Are you hiring? No, I'm kidding.
Are you hiring? No. Yeah, no, I mean, just right now, like, I've been working at GPA Consulting right now, so I'm relatively new there, so I'm still trying to kind of, find my footing and stuff like that. But I think I want to be able to obviously get to a position where I can start, hiring and, having some sort of an influence on the younger generations from like the position in my work. I don't want to, I love AEP, but, I want to be able to have a little bit of authority, elsewhere as well. So I think that's definitely something in my future. The other aspect of that now is that, I've kind of been pivoting in my career, right? I started out sort of like this bio heavy focus, and doing field work and stuff like that, which is all great. I like doing it. I'm also getting to a point where I can't stand California heat anymore. I'm starting to just cook, and it's getting hard to spend 10 hours in 100-degree weather, during the summer. So I definitely like having GIS as an as a other skill because it forces me to come back inside to process data and do stuff like that. So I think one of the that's definitely a direction I want to get into further is to definitely advance my GIS skills within that. Be able to kind of produce more, applications and stuff like that that could be beneficial for cities. You know, CEQA work, environmental work, even stuff for, my own company, doing field work and stuff like that. So I'd really love to start moving in that direction, get my GISP license, which is something that's, everyone seems to be trying to acquire all these licenses now, these professional, things for their resumes and stuff like that. So I think those are the kind of the things in the immediate future right now. So yeah.
That's a
We all
lot.
we all love little initials
Gotta
at the end of our name.
have it, right?
That's great. I think, oh my gosh, I just forgot what I was going to ask you. Well, another thing too, I was wondering is, based on your conversations, like your professional experience, your conversation with students, what do you see the future of the industry, like in general, like as a whole going?
Ooh, I mean, that's a that's 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 a hard question because I mean,
It is, sorry.
well, I mean, it's just because like everything's changing around us so rapidly. Like you talked about AI. I get a little worried about AI because it's kind of like I can tell it to write a report for me and it doesn't do a half bad job. Obviously, like it's very general, but it's kind of scary that it's getting to that point where it's kind of like, oh, it can kind of do that for me. So I mean, I really don't know. Like there's just there's just so much going on that I mean, I hope that it's all for kind of the good, but you know there's just so many other factors going on, political, scientific, technological, that just there really is no telling. And I feel like also there's a level of lag between some of these things too that are all changing. So science and technology go at crazy pace, but the regulations and legislations and stuff like that kind of seem to be reactionary, which is, hard. It's hard to be reactionary to something that's advancing so quickly. It's hard to be proactive then with something that's so, quick to move forward. So, um, yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's too much going on to kind of really be able to predict in a way what's going to happen. Um,
Yeah. I mean, and that's fair and reasonable. I think it's interesting because you have, like you said, it's like the science and the technology. And so like with the advancement of technology at an exponential pace, you can use it for good and for the environment. And so you think about both of you, had your fathers telling you, hey, like GIS, like you guys should pay attention and look into this. And, being able to pair that together, like, the technology with the natural environment. But I think that's such a good point about the regulations, the pace of that. It's not going to be able to keep up like fast enough with like how rapidly technology is changing now, especially with AI. It's like it's so complex. But I think that, what you're doing is like I think really indicative of the future though of the industry is to be able to pair that together. It's not just like the natural scientists or natural sciences, it's that and technology and like you said, how you can use it for like the betterment of the industry.
for sure. I mean, yeah, it's it's a double-edged sword. It could definitely help us. It definitely could also be something that puts some of us out of work. But yeah, I mean, yeah, AI is definitely being discussed and used in GIS applications now. I think even I've heard of a couple of companies at the conference that they've been trying to use AI to help them at least generate like templates and stuff like that for their, for their company and stuff like that. But I would definitely be interested to see how AI is being used in CEQA and stuff like that, beyond just template making and stuff like that. But yeah.
Well, and that's always been kind of one of my favorite things about the environmental profession is that like everything is changing. Regulatory environment's changing, physical environment's changing. And, we always like to say that you could, permit or analyze the exact same project on like directly adjacent parcels and guaranteed that effort isn't going to look the same both times. So I think, we're almost uniquely qualified to be able to handle some of the, changes that our society and our, country is going through, because that's what we do is we we are nimble and we work within a changing system constantly. So it's it's fun for us to try to pre-think or try to handle all of this uncertainty.
For sure.
Well, I think, before we get down a whole AI discussion, which will be a whole new episode, Corinne and I both love this topic. We'll go ahead and wrap up unless there's any other questions that you had, Corinne, before I get into the wrap up rapid five.
No, I was just going to do a shameless plug for our mentorship program, where we are getting fairly close to being able to roll out some changes in the upcoming year. And specifically, and I think, based on some feedback we've gotten from you, Cameron, and others, looking at a new program directly tailored for students. So we're, really excited to add to our mentorship program by having a track especially for students and seeing how, we at AEP can better fit the needs that students are looking for mentorship and for making that transition from student to professional. And it's stay posted. Probably a month from now we'll have a lot more details and be able to kind of finalize everything. But again, just shameless plug for our new student directed mentorship program.
That sounds great, and also a great way for you to involve the younger professionals too. Sounds great. Remember to let me know, as student liaison stuff.
You might get noticed a little sooner than everyone else, Cameron.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I love it. Sneak peek. Okay. We'll go ahead and get into the wrap up rapid five. So Cameron, what is your favorite daily habit?
Oh man. I guess, not to sound silly, but like a shower, field work plus, on long days, a shower sounds amazing. Also kind of like that spot where you can, find a little bit of clarity and peace, just the steam and the running water. Perfect.
Love it.
Best thing.
Peaceful. What are three things you would bring to a deserted island?
I mean, am I trying to stay lost, or
The world's your oyster.
I mean, my initial instinct would just be like flares, water, and a hatchet, but
I got it. I love it.
I'll substitute a hammock if I'm okay with staying there. So
Okay. I like that. What is your favorite environmental policy?
Is it cliche to say CEQA?
Never.
I just think it's like such a unique thing. Where else do you find that?
Good point. California. What is your favorite flora or fauna?
Well, I mean, as a kid, obviously sharks.
I was gonna say, I was like, you gotta say shark now.
Gotta say that one. But if you want me to pick a terrestrial one right now, I think I'm really into herons right now. So.
All right. And then finish this sentence. Wouldn't it be cool if?
We could. Wouldn't it be cool if we could all just get along?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Cameron. We appreciate the time and getting to hear about your experience.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you guys, and hopefully we could do this again.
Yes. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to be updated when new episodes are released and leave us a review to let us know what you think. It also really helps us to share the podcast with others who may enjoy learning about the environmental industry. If you want to submit a shout out or any feedback, please send an email or voice memo to podcast@califaep.org. The email again is podcast with an S, podcast@califaep.org.